Hello, beautiful people. We are back. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm just making sure Instagram's getting fired up over here. And Facebook is, I got to turn that off so that I don't have to hear my own voice. Facebook is ready to rock too. Okay, so I want to get right into it today. It's lunchtime, and we're going to work our way work up an appetite in ways that we could with nobody else on the planet as far as I'm concerned. This is one that I've been really excited for. There's a reason, as with everything, there's a reason for what I'm wearing. There's a reason for everything that I say, and everything I do is intentional. Today, I'm gonna talk to this about with him when he magically appears to you in a couple of seconds. But as you can see, paying homage today to my guy Triple H. Happy birthday to the chief content officer of WWE. Who I understand is out on the West Coast today because we have a Monday Night Raw in Los Angeles. Heading into a huge SummerSlam weekend, and probably the only thing that I like more than professional wrestling is, shocker, guys, sandwiches. So without any further ado, I have the guy behind the guy, the man who has brought not only Savannah's best sandwich, but Savannah's best deli. I travel upwards of an hour each direction to eat all of his. I celebrate the entire catalog, folks, and we're going to talk about a little bit of music today too. We're going to talk sports, and we're going to talk food. Oh, glorious food. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Billy Vissicchio of Rocky's New York Deli of Savannah and Italian Catering. What's up, brother?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well, actually. So this is going to be a challenge for me. Number one, I call these the Indulgent Hour. It's because I try to keep them to an hour. And as we're approaching the 1 o'clock hour, you and I are probably going to be very hungry for some lunch. It's going to be very difficult for me to keep this to an hour because I have been looking forward to this for a really long time. You and I have been trying to get this together. And I also feel like, not everything, but I feel like a lot of things happen for a reason. And I think the timing of you and I finally getting together for this conversation is really perfect on a number of levels. And I'm going to get into those step by step. I have a couple notes, but not much. What's funny about it, though, is, Billy, is that I don't do a lot of prep for these. I like to pull together, some photos for some supporting documentation so I can share the screen because, of course, this is a visual show. So about an hour and a half ago or so, I finished my coffee or whatever, and I'm doing my normal morning routine. And I'm like, all right, let me pull up some Rockies photos for the podcast. I landed on 112, and that's not all of the photos that I have. Yeah, I just went through and I just click, select all, create folder, whatever. And we're going to look at some of those. What surprised me the most about my little gathering of supporting documentation is that it goes as far back as January 2023, which begs the question, what in the blue hell was I doing from April of 2021 when I moved here through 2022 that I didn't come to see you until January? And again, I'm not 100% certain on that. It's the first known photos. I actually have one here of my lovely wife. We'll see if she gets to see the light of day. She doesn't like to be making appearances on social media or whatnot. But I think what's most fun about it is going back through as I sit here in a room full of memorabilia. When I visit your store, it really is like a trip back. It's a trip back through time in terms of sports and entertainment, which you and I share a lot in common in terms of the things that we enjoy, movies and things, as well as sports. But what it really is a time capsule to where you come from and generally where I'm from. I always say that, like, North Jersey and Long Island, there's a lot of similarities there. Let's start there. Okay. this is going on for you guys are in, want to say your 8th year, correct?
We finished up 8 years in April. We're actually in our 9th right now.
On to 9th. Unbelievable, man. The time does go very, very, very quickly, especially when you're having fun. And that's where I kind of want, what I would like to start with is what exactly brought you to where the idea popped in your head that said, I live here in, the Pooler, Savannah area. I need to bring a true New York deli to Savannah, because it didn't really exist, and really, for all intents and purposes, hasn't ever since.
It's funny. I worked for McDonald's Corporation for almost 30 years.
That's right. I remember you telling me that.
The last 10 of which were, here in Savannah. And I knew I was getting ready to go out on my own at some point, and I knew what I wanted to do. And you always do what's familiar to you. So I knew I wanted to do something Italian. I knew I wanted to, I just didn't know what. My experiences with fast casual, fast food, that sort of thing wasn't really with sit down restaurants. And I happened to watch an episode of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and they did a feature on DeFonte's sandwich shop in Brooklyn, and they went through making the fresh mozzarella and the different sandwiches, and I'm like, well, that's what I need to be doing. That's exactly what because I was a deli, I was at a deli every day back on Long Island. I'm like, right. This is what I know. This is what I do, and there's nothing around here like it. This is what I need to do.
And so from there, you're like, okay, we're going full on with this deli, and you went into the location that you're still in right now, right? Right there in the Sandfly neighborhood, right?
Yep.
And this is where I think it would be helpful to kind of bring in some visual aids. So this was probably going back to like my first visit, and we're going to talk about a lot of food, but before we get to that,
wow, those walls are empty. We get a lot more stuff
and I have more current photos. This is just this was back to my first visit, and we'll give people a comparison so that they can see going from here to, let's go to the most recent photos, or the more recent photos on the timeline, for example, such as this guy. You see, obviously, a little bit more filled in. We got a lot of Mets. We got a lot of, some Giants. We got quite a bit of Sopranos. Of course, we got Joe Ganiscoli, who one of the sandwiches on the menu is named after, and we're going to do a deep dive into that as well. When I'm there, I end up taking just as much. We have Pie O My with the captain there. A lot of times when I'm there visiting with you guys for most of the time for lunch, a lot of times I find myself where I'm taking almost more photos of my surroundings and of things that I observe. One of which was, and I didn't want to speed by this too fast, was we talked about this, you guys, and very grateful to you that you participated in the Enjoy Every Sandwich tour with the Vito, which we're going to talk about. But excuse me, when Olivia and I I think it was Olivia and her youngest son Bryson, we did a little bit of an interview while you were you and the team were working your butts off as usual, as she does, orchestrating the catering, and I'm going to get back to that in a second. But the timing of that video was actually perfect too, because you guys had just won Best Deli by the readers of Savannah, of Connect Savannah. You had won Best Deli, you had won Best Sandwich Shop, and you, Olivia said when we were talking that you guys finished in third, and this is what's truly remarkable, and I want to focus on really that's the biggest thing, that's the most exciting about what has happened over these last couple of years, is the first and second place were companies or businesses that have actual on-site catering halls, if you will, where you can have an event there. And you guys finished right after those two, and you have
we were actually the runner up. We finished in second place.
Oh, in second. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what it was. So my mistake. But that being said, still, the fact that you're able to finish runner up in a category where you don't have an on-site catering, and I know that's what keeps you very busy as well, is the catering. These last couple of years, you and I have done, I'm going to keep this in very general terms because this is not a business, podcast, but every time you and I have a conversation, it seems as though the business has outperformed whatever expectations that you have had, whatever goals that you have set, whatever marks that you guys have, lofty goals that you've set for yourselves. Every time that you take a look at that, it seems to, and this has been going on for the last couple of years now. I remember you told me there was a build-up period for the business. And then now that you've been in, 8 going on 9 years, the models are, you almost have to change the model because things have picked up and have continued to pick up exponentially. Talk a little bit about how this has grown from that time when you decided to open this sandwich shop to what it has become now.
Well, it's funny when we first went to, when it was first, we were going to open, I think we were originally set to open sometime in early 2018, we were probably targeting January, February. It didn't happen until April.
Right.
And I really thought, being the cocky New Yorker that I was, that I opened the doors and the masses would come. I did a lot of pre-promotion and stuff like that. And I really thought it was, first 2 years were difficult. The location is a little bit off the beaten path. It's well off the beaten path.
Sure.
It's not downtown. It's a residential place. We were drawing from just in the general area, and we knew we had a good product, and we got recognized for that. But the first 2 years, I didn't know if we were going to make it at all. And then COVID hits, so I'm like, all right, that's it. We're done. It's a nice try, good. And something happened during COVID that sometimes I'm almost embarrassed to say, but we started to take off during COVID.
Right.
We didn't close one day. We did takeout only. We introduced online ordering, and all of a sudden things jumped. And as that died down, the customers stayed and kept adding more. And that's with the word of mouth. And for 8 years, year over year, we have increased every single year. The last 3 years at an incredible rate, which sometimes I wonder where's it coming from? And then I see people who are in there for the first time all the time, and it's like, okay, there's a lot more out there, and it amazes me that in that 1,300 square foot shoebox, we're just about at capacity right now.
Yeah. Definitely, and we'll talk about the future and down the road as we get towards the end of the show. But the thing that's fascinating about that is, and I'm glad you brought it up, is COVID was an interesting time, and it was obviously one of the most challenging of times, specifically for dine-in restaurants. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of restaurants had to change their sort of alter on the fly the concept of what they were doing. I always think
some did a really good job of that too.
Oh, definitely.
Really
definitely. They kind of pivoted on the fly.
Yeah.
And some of them, for example, I always think about my brother-in-law, who I've talked to you about, how my brothers-in-law have a cheese shop and they do some sandwiches and things like that up in Biddeford, Maine, which is where my in-laws, it's the Portland area of southern Maine, and one of my favorite food places. They decided to bring, and one of them had lived in Brooklyn for a while, and the other one had lived in the Boston area, then the DC area, and then he ended up in Portland. Ironically, it was between either Maine or Charleston, South Carolina, which would have been interesting. But he at the time, before they opened the cheese shop, he was working at a restaurant called Local 188, and they, during COVID, shifted their concept to, I don't remember the exact word that they used, but it was basically like it was essentially like a grocery, like where
Yeah.
you could go, and instead of going there and dining in and what was kind of like a tapas, like shared plate concept, you could go in and you could basically get provisions. You could get meats and cheeses and produce and things like that. And what really was an interesting time. That being said, I have a lot of negative memories of a lot of times, and you'll appreciate this. I would be so bored at night, especially without having sports and things like that to watch, that I would get caught up in watching a lot of the stupid COVID nonsense on the news, a lot of which you don't even know if you could really believe. But I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I just didn't know what to do with myself. And I would find myself like showering at like 1-2 o'clock in the morning before I went to bed, because I'd be home all day long and I would walk the dog and write a loan and walk the dog and write a couple more loans. But I would be up at 1-2 o'clock in the morning and I would be listening to Steve Summers on my shower radio. Yeah, the schmooze. Like basically who my friend of mine still talks about all the time. He's a big terrestrial radio, Francesa and Summers and all those guys. But I got to meet, remember when I posted the pictures when I met Joe Benigno at a YMCA basketball game when I was back up home in April. I had a great conversation with him. He was decked out head to toe in Mets and Knicks gear, I think, that night. But I remember Steve Summers at night getting me through, sort of this just preoccupied, like I was desperate for just any sort of like human interaction, because I'm, by nature, I'm a social person. The other thing that I remember during COVID was at least once or twice a week, I would call into my deli, which was Angelina's. That's now Angelina's has gone, and I sent you the first one that Large from Barstool did. He did a video there a couple of months ago. And then another group of very spirited young Italian American, I don't even know what the group is called, but they went there and it was almost like it was a Jersey Shore reunion out in front of the deli a couple of weeks ago. And someone posted in one of the community boards, because I still kind of am a member of one or two of the community pages back in Hawthorne, which is where my father's family's from. I lived there for a number of years. I'm from Wyckoff. It's right up the road. But Angelina's, whether you're in Wyckoff or Hawthorne, anywhere around there, is an institution. And someone asked in one of the pages, that has lived in that town for 7 years, why is there a line down the street every day? And I wrote as a comment, and it's up to like probably 50 likes, and I really wasn't being a jerk. I said, tell me you're not from Hawthorne without telling me that you're not from Hawthorne, because anybody that's from Hawthorne or lives anywhere near and around Hawthorne knows about Angelina's. Well, if they didn't know, now they know, because they've basically become like a viral sensation. And that's interesting how you said, like early on, you weren't really sure because you were getting like the locals. But Billy, at this point in time, I mean, how many days a week do you see? You got people that are coming out from out here. I'm sitting here in Bluffton, right? On the Savannah side, really closer to you than some parts of the south end of Hilton Head. But how many people are they always saying, we need a Rockies over here? That are people that are driving upwards of an hour. I mean, if my parents want to go to you, they're on the north end of Hilton Head. It's probably going to be closer to an hour and a half from them. But it's a pilgrimage many people have the desire to make, because they can find the things they can't find anywhere else over here, at least on this side of the river, whether you're south or north of the Broad, as they say, heading up towards Beaufort. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have great relationship, and I celebrate a lot of what Sister Deli does, and they do have some good meats and things like that. But they're not an Italian deli. They're a deli, a traditional, more of a traditional delicatessen. Talk about a little bit about that, about how it's basically become a destination, because Savannah's a pretty popular touristy place too, more so downtown than the part of your town, which is where I spend more of my time in Starland and Sandfly than I do anywhere else in town. But people are coming from great distances to enjoy your food.
It's wild. Saturdays. Saturdays. There are. I think a lot of the draws is that really they've come to trust me and what we do.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted to give it a, because everybody's skeptical of a New York quote unquote style deli, or and I don't claim to be New York style. I claim to be directly New York. And
yeah, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is a New York deli.
yeah,
Yeah,
and people have come to trust us. So we'll see those faces in there, once every couple of weeks or once a month. And I'm always asking where people are from and where they're. Bluffton, Beaufort, even Charleston. I've seen people come in from Atlanta who had heard about us. It's wild, and a lot of that is the New York authenticity. I mean, when I'm getting pastosa ravioli, which is, it's the gold standard in New York, and it's. I mean, I used to travel from Long Island into Brooklyn to get it around the holidays and stuff.
Yeah,
and we have it, which still blows my mind. And then some of the breads and some of the things and the bagels and stuff that we're able to get from New York. People usually, when they go home to New York, they'll pick up stuff and come back with it, and they don't have to do that anymore. They can come in and we got what they need.
Right, especially more recently with the bagels and bialys, where you change suppliers for that. You also get those beautiful semolina rolls from Malone and Sons Bakery up on Staten Island, correct? That's where they are, I think.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
And that's the other thing is during I believe it, and that's why I think this was really perfect for timing on a lot of levels. The only team of ours that's not cooperating with us is the trusty New York Mets, which you and I share and a lot of misery about. We're going to keep the Mets talk to a minimum during this show. But you did get some New York recognition, even and you have gotten some looks from up north, from back home, if you will. Me being, Northeast Jersey, you being a Long Island. What's the one thing that we have in common is, the quote unquote greatest city in the world. You've gotten some looks from some of those publications up north with a couple of these New York sports inspired sandwiches, correct?
A couple of years ago when the Mets were actually good, and Pete Alonso had hit that home run to send them into the next round of the playoffs. We did a special called the Polar Bear.
I remember,
and somehow, somewhere, the New York Post picked up on it, and there were a number of delis around the New York area that were doing Mets themed sandwiches, and they did a feature on us and two other delis, which I'm in contact with. Benetari's and College Point. Those guys are great up there. And we bounce things off each other. And it's whenever I go up there, I go by them. It's really cool. And just to be featured in the New York Post. I mean, it was on page 3 right there. It was absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That's incredible. The Brunson egg and cheese got quite a bit of acknowledgement, not only from like WTOC, one of our main local networks, but that one made its way around as well, did it not?
Yeah, I had a laugh. I saw the clip of Jalen Brunson being asked what his go-to bodega sandwich was, and he said it, and I said, all right, we need to do this. And after we did it, I thought we were being unique. And then I saw just about every deli in New York did a Brunson egg and cheese, same deal. And it was cool that we had it.
Well, let me tell you this. I came to eat this thing and it was, and I'll be honest, like I'm a sausage, egg and cheese guy. I just, shout out Nosh New York Bagels over here, and they recently opened their second location on the island, but my go-to is the one right down the road here in Ridgeland. And I texted Michael yesterday because I needed to go grab something quick because I had a couple of things that I needed to do, and if he's there, I'll usually just, it's 5-10 minutes down the road. So I'm a sausage, egg and cheese guy. So I was skeptical about this thing because this Brunson bodega sandwich is a hash brown, it's eggs, it's cheese. This is on one of your beautiful everything bagels, which especially this most recent iteration of these bagels that you have are spectacular. This sandwich did not have meat on it, and it did not need it because, I mean, it was the hash browns kind of took the place of it, and it really got the job done. I mean,
spicy mayo gave it that kick.
That's right. The spicy mayo. That's the key ingredient that Mr. MVP King of New York prefers. And you can kind of see it, kind of soaking into the bagel a little bit. I sat right out front and ate this thing, and I loved every single freaking bite of it. I don't get out there early enough as I'd like to be able to do breakfast. I did a couple Saturdays ago, which I was more than worth the trip that I made out there to jump in and help out.
You definitely helped me out, so I really appreciate that.
That was. I mean, listen, what do you think I thought when you said I need to get this stuff and I need to get it as early as possible? And I thought to myself, if I get there at like 8 o'clock in the morning, I can sit and relax and have a nice breakfast sandwich. And of course, I can get me a couple of things to go, which is really what I always do. We always have a laugh with Jelani and Matt and the crew over there that, like, when my brother comes and he gets his Ebbets, which also happens to be my wife's favorite, my brother comes and he orders one Ebbets, or unless he's in a cheesesteak mood, he'll get the cheesesteak, but he'll get an Ebbets, and then he'll get 2 or 3 additional Ebbets, as I like to say, in the chamber, and he'll just eat the Ebbets through the weekend, which is the eggplant with the herb spread and the prosciutto and I think there's arugula on there as well, right?
A little bit. Is it I can't even remember. Now I can't even remember that.
Yeah, I'm the one that's got the.
I got a menu right here. Wait a second.
Yeah, I got it right in front of my face. Yeah, I got it right here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the Ebbets, fried eggplant, prosciutto, fresh mozzarella, balsamic glaze, herb ricotta, and a semolina hero. And I got I'll pull up you get it, and I told you this a couple months ago when you redid the menus. You really did a spectacular job. Very clear and concise with the categories, and then of course, you got the from the grill section, which that Southpaw is my brother's go-to. He usually goes no peppers. And then, of course, the chopped cheese, which really, I mean, that one I think was one that was so popular. Was that always on the menu, or is that just so popular that it stuck?
We did that as a special a few years ago, and
it killed.
Yeah,
right.
I wasn't ready for it, it went nuts. I mean, and that's a classic New York City bodega type sandwich, and it's huge.
The cheesesteak is definitely one of my favorites. It's one of his favorites. I like to do the basically essentially your version of the French dip is another one with the roast beef and the mozzarella. Another one of my favorites. I want to talk about that because, like you said, you had that as a special. You had the chopped cheese. You had the chopped. I got it right here. You had the chopped chicken and cheese that occasionally pops back on as a special from time to time. I talked about this with Olivia, but I want to talk about this with you too. We talked about it during Enjoy Your Sandwich, and I'm gonna dip back into that in a minute here too. As I look back, oh my God, looking at these sandwiches, I'm making myself so hungry. Olivia gave us a little bit of insight. I mean, it's not rocket science into what goes into it, but a lot of these specials and a lot of things that you like to spotlight they have inspiration. So I'm gonna let you drive, and I just want you to kind of talk about how you come up with in the thought process, or maybe just a couple of them that maybe have been your favorites. And as you do that, I'm gonna take people through a couple of the highlights, because a lot of times I take pictures of that board because for record keeping purposes, I want to know what some of these ingredients are and some of these weekly specials as well. I had to bust your chops when your sister was late getting back up to New York the other day. You said the sandwich and her name, the Malvern, was going to be here as long as she was here, and so she got stranded for an extra day or so. And I said, does that mean that we're going to get the special for a couple more days? So talk about that, and I'm going to kind of kaleidoscope through what some of these specials have been. And of course, almost every week, every Friday, which is Parm Friday, which is a big one for me and my brother and my father even as well.
Well, it's funny. When we first started, we had 12 sandwiches on the menu. Now there's about 20, and those other 8 came from specials that did real well.
Yeah.
Oh boy, Dan, God, that was a good one.
A great one.
A lot of the specials, I'll look and see what New York is doing. I'll see some of the things that they're doing, and I've given them credit where I've stolen ideas shamelessly from them.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's inspired by somebody else, right?
Yeah. Red Storm. I don't know how I came up with that. I mean, St. John, big St. John's basketball fan. So,
Sure.
It'll come to me in the moment. I will talk to the crew, and I'll ask them to come up with stuff, and we'll tweak it. Olivia's got a great one. We call it the Angry Bird because it's just spicy. And when she was pregnant, she used to give everybody dirty looks, and it was easy to get. The Olivia's Angry Bird. That we're going to do that one soon.
Okay.
Around St. Patty's Day, we do a corned beef special that Jelani came up with. That was phenomenal. And we'll play around with things, and we'll taste things. Again, some of it I take from what others are doing up in New York. Sometimes it just happens. And I think we're going to do this next week or the week after. The Sweet Lou, which is it started.
I remember this one.
I wanted to almost do a play on chicken cordon bleu, so I said, all right, chicken and ham, and then it became. It just started going over the top. It was chicken cutlet and ham and some melted Gouda on it, and made a bacon jam. And I think I got to look it up at the side. And it became a ridiculous seller. I've done lasagna on a sandwich before that I didn't think was going to take off, but went nuts. I haven't done that one in a while. We'll do that again.
That's interesting.
This week we're going to be doing a brisket cheesesteak. Something that I've wanted to do for a while, and I just came up with the right rub for the brisket, and we're smoking it tonight, and hopefully that'll do well this week. But it's things that I like to do, things that you might not see on a sandwich. We've done a chicken marsala hero. I do some, I take my mom's meatloaf recipe. We do an Italian meatloaf hero for a special. Stuff that you normally wouldn't see on a sandwich, or we just do bigger versions of what I have seen, and everybody gets into it. The kids love to fight to just, all right, I got next week's special. They love to do it, and sometimes you got to tone them down a little bit, but it's the specials are fun. They really are.
And I have fun from time to time texting you some ideas that I have here and there. I'm still holding out hope for that John Harbaugh special that I had, which I'm not going to say. I'm not going to divulge my secrets. Those are private conversations between you and I. But to that end, I am in a privileged position to be able to get a sneak peek at some of these things.
Yeah.
So when, for example, on I think it was Saturday, where I said, what's out there to eat today, and my friend Billy chimes in and says, next week's special. Well, this wasn't private. This was out on there on Facebook, but you had to be paying attention when it's in the comments. And he sends and comments with this picture of this beautiful brisket cheesesteak that will be on special. As you can tell, he's with me today. They're closed on Sundays and Mondays, but when they reopen tomorrow, which is Tuesday, July 28th, you will be able to get this absolutely. I mean, let's zoom in on this cheesy goodness. You and I have been talking brisket for these last couple of weeks. And I mean, this thing, I know we're going in real tight in here, but come on, guys. I mean, that looks like a absolutely melt in your mouth cheesesteak. I don't get out there every week, but I've said this before, I am a hunter for specials. And as it pertains specifically to sandwiches, I have an eye out for things. And when I see, more often than not, when I see whatever it is, and you guys do a great job with letting us know, because that's the other thing that makes me, frustrated with a lot of places. It's like, if I really have to search to find what your special is, whether it's, seasonal or a weekly or a daily special, it kind of defeats the purpose of it. Is, we need to know what you got in order to go out there and get it. And you guys do a spectacular job of keeping us abreast of what's out there and what is being offered. And a lot of times it's driven by inspiration and things like that, but it's also driven a lot of times by ingredients and whatnot. I want to circle back real quick because one of my favorite spots about the sandwich tour, you enjoy every sandwich tour, that we wrapped up earlier this month, was I had to take this sandwich from a couple of different angles. So this was RJ's sandwich because he preferred it on the seeded bread, and he went with your standard. I think he went with the Mazzilli, I want to say is what his was, but this was the Vito. And I got a couple of different angles and a couple of different shots on this. It's like a couple of weeks ago when I did the anatomy of an Italian sandwich with the T, which is your take on an Italian sandwich, again, named after the captain, Mr. Tony Soprano, Anthony Soprano himself, right?
I couldn't say gabagool without Tony, so.
Yeah. Correct. Absolutely. You had to start from the top with and every Italian deli has to have an Italian. Yep. This is the Vito, though. This is the Vito, and this is kind of a showcase of everything that's great about Rocky's New York Deli. As you can see from the side angle here, you have a hefty, nice pile of beautifully fried chicken cutlets. You have your this is a sopressata on this one, I want to say.
Hot sopressata, yep.
Hot sopressata. You have your provolone, roasted peppers, arugula, I believe, right? Yep. And then you have your, is this one balsamic? I think
it's a red wine vinaigrette on
red wine vinaigrette. That's right. Correct. Which is another thing that I love, because normally, not normally, but a lot of times it's like, oh, okay, you're going to get a chicken cutlet sandwich with fresh mozzarella, roast peppers, whatever you want to do. I like the fact that this one has the provolone instead of the fresh mozzarella. And I like the fact that this has the red wine vinaigrette in lieu of the balsamic, because it really lets the ingredients shine through. And I want to take people into the mind of the maniac as well, because you and I have talked about this, and I don't know if people get into this degree or into this depth when they talk about sandwiches. I want to take a minute, and then just a quick peek at this was RJ's Lee Mazzilli, which I think I told you was basically like that was like the infinity stone that was missing from your gauntlet, was your standard, imported prosciutto with the fresh mozzarella, roasted peppers. This one definitely more of a fit for the balsamic. But I want you to talk a little bit about how did I have that up on there? There we go. Sometimes I look at it and I get so mesmerized that I forget to put it up on the screen. So that was the cross section of the Lee Mazzilli. But you mentioned something to me in the past, that you're very mindful about how these ingredients are layered. Can you just pull the curtain back just a little bit into the science of how you're building a sandwich and how your staff is trained to build it a certain way so that it delivers the flavors that you want it to deliver in the order in which you prefer them to be? If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, it was a lot of trial and error to see what tastes right. But it depending on what's on the sandwich, it just, like the Vito has so many things on the sandwich, and it's typical to whatever binder you got, lettuce or arugula, to leave that on top. But arugula is a little bit bitter, so you infuse that with the red wine vinaigrette, and it comes out with a great flavor. And then down into the cheese, into the sopressata, and you got that little heat from the sopressata into the chicken, and then those roasted peppers, which honestly, roasted peppers on the bottom mainly because if you put them on top, they're all over the place. So it's easier to just to make that sandwich. But it's just, you don't want two of the same flavors, in a row. You want something different, as you work your way down in different textures. And I mean, that's the basics. I can't take much credit for the Vito though, because that one wasn't made up by me.
Sure. Well, talk about that. Tell us how that came about. I think that's important for people to know if they don't already.
Well, I mean, if you haven't figured it out, I'm a huge Sopranos fan.
Yes.
And I found out that the guy who played Vito on The Sopranos lived one town from where I grew up on Long Island. And he was doing a lot of
Joe Ganiscoli.
Joe Ganiscoli. Yep, Joe Ganiscoli. And he kind of reinvented himself because he's a guest chef or he does a lot of guest chefing up in New York. He goes to different restaurants. He does home parties. He does a lot of. He's a great chef, and I reached out through Facebook and actually got his email address, and I just shot him an email. I said, I'd love to get an autographed picture of you. If you have the time, I'm opening this deli up. Would give me some good street cred if you can sign. He's like, yeah. He sends me a message back within an hour, and he's like, yeah, I'll send you a picture, but you got to do me a favor. Let me create a sandwich for you and name it for you. I said, okay. I can do that. And he came up with exactly that. And it was, it's in our top 5 of most popular sandwiches. And every once in a while, I'm friends with him on Facebook now. And every once in a while, he'll pop up the picture of himself, at the deli and a picture of the sandwich. And it's just really cool. It's really cool.
To Bill, try the Vito, best in the city. Joseph, Oregon. I didn't know about honestly, I didn't know about the chef work and the stuff that he'd done. I'm just looking it up here. He's been on an episode of the cannabis themed cooking show, Bong Appetit. I didn't even know that was a thing. He appeared with Vincent Pastore on Gordon Ramsay's 24 Hours to Hell and Back in January 2020. And it says is American actor and chef. Yeah. Born and raised in Brooklyn, attended St. John's for 2 years. And then says he received his big break in acting from Benicio del Toro, who he met on the set on Money for Nothing. After appearing in Ed Wood, Del Toro later cast him in his directorial debut, Submission. And then he also introduced him to Sheila Jaffe and Georgianne Walken, who did casting work for the HBO TV series The Sopranos. So that's another thing that I want to mention, is something that unless you're a real tried and true Sopranos fan like Billy and I are, his first appearance in The Sopranos was not as Vito.
No, it was Gino. His name was Gino in that scene.
Gino, and he was was it the bakery? It
was a bakery,
right?
A bakery where Christopher was trying to get an order, and the guy behind the counter was overlooking Christopher, and went right to Gino.
So Gino was there first, and I think he might have gotten shot in the foot for it.
So one of the greatest crossover lines ever. Christopher ended up shooting the bakery worker in the foot, and
he got shot in the foot in Goodfellas, originally.
Spider. Yeah. So he's yelling, "Hey, you shot me in the foot! You shot me in the foot!" And as Christopher's walking around, it's like, "Yeah, it happens." Just what a little Easter egg in The Sopranos.
Just incredible. And really, I hadn't thought about that was, and I've more recently, clips have been coming up of the Goodfellas scene in my timeline. And I didn't think about that. I really need to do, and I got the door closed here to the studio, and it's a good thing, because if my wife she's probably not home yet, but if she was, she'd probably roll her eyes again, because I've been saying for months and months, and I really I'm just being pulled in so many different directions, and I have so many balls in the air that I haven't done it yet. I really want to do a deep dive into, I want to rewatch the show, and I think I got it somewhere. It's probably over underneath the TV over there. I have a copy of the Sopranos Sessions, which is is a book that was written by, I want to make sure I get this right, Alan Sepinwall, featuring in-depth interviews with the creator of The Sopranos, David Chase, along with episode recaps, essays, and analysis of the groundbreaking series. It was published to coincide with the show's 20th anniversary. It serves as a comprehensive companion, exploring the show's themes, artistry, and legacy, and includes Chase's answers to long-debated questions about the finale and other plot points. So the cool thing about this book is that it's divided season by season. So you can basically go through, and I'm not much of a reader. I mean, I have a book sitting over here on think it was a Ron Perlman biography that my wife bought me for Christmas, probably before we moved down here. I don't really spend a lot of time reading, and it's my own fault. I end up getting buried in stuff on my phone with social media and all the stuff that with the promoting and everything that I do. But I really want to force myself to sit down, because a lot of times outside of my pro wrestling and my sports consumption and things like that, I know that there's newer shows that come out, and certain ones I get engaged in, like Mayor of Kingstown, because I'm a big Jeremy Renner fan, and I know I need to watch The Bear. Everybody tells me that I need to watch that. I can't believe I haven't done it yet, but I want to go back through that, because I really, most of my Sopranos consumption over the last several years has just been from clips and
right.
things like that on social media, and my algorithm is very friendly to me. It does show me a lot of that stuff, and you and I have a lot of fun shooting little things, little memes and Sopranos quotes and things like that back and forth as well. We'll think of a certain episode, or I'm big on, people don't realize like how seriously I take, curating the songs that I use specifically on my stories and things like that, just kind of like I did with the sandwich tour, which again, we really had a blast with it. We did, almost 40 restaurants. You and my friends at the Laundry out in Savannah were kind enough to do that. I'd love to open it up if I ever do those again in the future, which I probably will. I'd like to open it up to more of Savannah, but the veto was, of course, as always, it will be with an authentic Italian sandwich, was one of the most popular ones, at least in terms of how well the video performed. And I have to give a shout out to Olivia and Bryson as well for really giving us a special one over there. And we had the Mets at the time looked like they were showing a little bit of promise. Our Giants had got a new coach, which I was excited about. And more importantly, the Knicks were on their way to an NBA championship, which they ultimately won. Let's take a quick aside from that for a second, and I'll admit, and also I didn't want to forget. I want to show that as well. One of my favorites on the Soup de Tour back in the fall was your Italian wedding soup. I got to enjoy that with the guys from Wanderoft. We did a collab. I got to get back together with Alex soon so that we can go do some more stuff together.
Yeah, those guys are good.
This is a delicious Italian wedding is one of my favorite soups to begin with. This soup was spectacular. I think I had a cool conversation with you about my dad's 70th birthday party and how one of my uncles, one of his best friend's stories was about the big meatballs in the soup versus the little meatballs. Right. You had meatballs of different sizes, which I absolutely loved. This was one of my favorite stops, and that's kind of was the first of this kind that I had done, and it really was the perfect thing, because you've done a couple of different suits, but really is the perfect thing to come from you guys, and I think about this this particular soup and this particular occasion very often. But back to the Knicks for a second, as we take one last quick look at that beautiful. It'll be back before you know it, guys. Once we're back through this summer slog, we'll be back to soup weather.
We will.
This Knicks tour. Now, I worked and when I was thinking about what I was going to wear and today's the very first day of WWE radio on Sirius, which is an important day for me. I'm newer into the podcasting foray with the wrestling, if you will. I'm doing a live radio show Thursdays on Montclair State's radio station with a friend of mine named Tommy Emmerich, who's a student up there, and I'm having an absolute blast doing it. So when I heard them today on the very first day of WWE radio, and I heard Dave LaGreca, whose brother Don is very popular New York sportscaster up there. When Dave mentioned that it was Triple H's birthday, that's when I decided to pivot. But I was originally going to wear an old school Nets, like a New Jersey, like an old school Nets logo with a bright blue. I was going to wear that just because, your Knicks run got me thinking. First of all, it gives me hope. And I'm not as connected to the Brooklyn iteration of the Nets as I was to, the team when it was in New Jersey and when I was working there. But when I was putting together the outfit today before I pivoted to Triple H to wish him a happy birthday today, and I did still get you. I got you the Italian Stallion robe from the Rocky series. This is from Roosevelt, who's got. I have a bathing suit that's almost exactly like the one that he wore in Rocky IV for the title match. I have this Italian Stallion robe. I also have the American flag version of this that I also purchased from Roosevelt's. They have a lot of cool Rocky stuff. I don't own any Knicks stuff because the Knicks were always, for me, was a rivalry. I mean, it was one-sided on our end for the Nets when we were on our run. And I remember when I walked out of there after we swept the Knicks in 2004, that was the end of that run. We ended up losing to Detroit in the second round after going to the finals the two previous years.
Nets,
Correct.
Yeah.
So the Nets traded for Jason Kidd, and then I started working there after that. So I was on that ride from 01 to 04. It's one of the best memories that I've ever had, except instead of a championship ring, which I should have if Byron Scott hadn't been outcoached by Greg Spurs Popovich. If he hadn't been outcoached like really badly by Greg Popovich, I really felt we had the better team that year. But I found myself in on this Knicks run because, number one, I have a lot of friends like yourself and others, people that I grew up with that are big time Knicks fans. And it was hard to not root for this team. It was hard to not root specifically for this player in Jalen Brunson, who turns out to be one of the best, if not the best, free agent signings in NBA history, especially considering he took a little bit less money than he could have taken, which allowed them to fill out the rest of that roster. Basketball outside of my time with the Nets was not, it's always football is number one for me. And baseball is such a long season, and we've been downtrodden, like we mentioned earlier in the show, so much by the Mets and how the movie kind of always ends in the same tragic fashion. But talk about how nice it was to finally get, because we're pretty far removed from our Giants titles at this point too. The last one was 15 years ago. Talk about how much fun it was, because I've always felt like, even if I'm not a fan of a particular New York sports team, I've always felt like it's better for the sport as a whole, and for people like you and I who pay attention to the back page, if you will, from a standpoint of consuming sports news. Talk about how big of a deal was this Knicks run was for them to win a title for the first time in 50 plus years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, New York is so starved for a championship. I mean, even the Yankees, I mean, but I'm maybe an above casual basketball fan. Right. You're not going to catch me in January watching, Knicks Wizards, on a Thursday night, but I knew where they've been the last couple of years, and they've taken those, that next step each year. And this year they were primed. And then in the middle of the season, they went through a really bad stretch where they had lost something like, 10 of 14 or 10 of 12. And you wondered if they had anything. And,
right.
And then the Giants were already out of it. The Jets, forget about.
Oh my God, forget about it is right.
There was some promise with the Yankees in the beginning of the year. There was promise with the Mets in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And then, we're thinking, all right, this is going to be a good summer. And then the Mets just immediately imploded. And all of a sudden you got this Knicks who got into the playoffs. First couple of games, I think they were down 2-1. It
was a little touch and go early on in that Atlanta series.
And then they win 12 straight after that. And it was just so much fun to watch. This team is so likable. Every one of them is such a likable, and they just dominated. And you could see New York saying, all right, this is it. This is our year. And I talk almost every night with my friends up in New York, and you don't understand what they're doing for the city right now. The city is going out of their minds. And, I was hoping they'd win it at home, but whatever it was, they just needed to win. And when they won, I mean, it just, when you win in New York, it's better than winning anywhere else. I say that being a New Yorker, but there's just something special about just the whole city comes together. Unfortunately, I haven't seen a Mets championship in quite some time, but I was 16 when the Mets won the World Series, and I remember the cars, the horns honking, when they finally won it. I was down here for both of the Giants Super Bowl wins, most recent ones, but I was up there for the Giants for the Parcells years.
Yeah.
It's amazing how you just wear the colors, and just people you don't know, what's up? How you doing? It was so important for the city. And it gives it gives hope to the fans of some of the other sports that haven't done well. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of hope with the Giants season coming on. Maybe too much, but
Sure.
it's don't sleep on these guys this year. But it gives us a little bit of hope. The Mets fans, hey, look, I'll be out there every year,
Yeah.
saying, all right, this is our year, before I get disappointed. The Yankees, who were off to a great start and they're injured. The Knicks are going to carry this for a while, and it's just really cool.
Oh, definitely. And I think that really the biggest thing is the culture aspect of it. Maybe the Mets finally start to turn the corner after that. I mean, they've made so many changes, I've lost track. But I think that's really why we're so excited about the Giants, is because the culture of it. And even when they had Harbaugh and they asked him about the Knicks, and I think he attributed it to that culture, and the same reason why it's infectious to want to watch and root for the team. You can kind of get the feeling when something special starts to come together, and we've had glimpses of it as Met fans over the years. We've captured lightning in a bottle a couple of times. We couldn't finish the job.
Excuse my little.
Oh no, you're fine. As Jersey's trying to jump in.
Yeah, it's Jersey.
A lot of times Ronan will interrupt, but I think it's nap time for him. But yeah, what makes it fun to be a sports fan when you have a team that has a personality, and whether it's someone like Ben Stiller or Timothy Chalamet, or I mean, that was part of the fun too with the Knicks run, was like who's in the building on that particular day. And I'm a big fan of Kazim Famuyide. I think that's how you pronounce it. He does a wrestling podcast. He's on Hot 97 now in the mornings, and he does 7 p.m. in Brooklyn, the podcast with Carmelo Anthony. And to see him through the lens of a wrestling fan in a picture after Saturday night's main event, where he's got Roman Reigns, the WWE World Champion, on one side and Jalen Brunson on the other side. He basically described it as this is as if all my the circles on my Venn diagram came together in one uniform or congruous circle, and I was excited for him, and I don't even know him personally. I've met him before, but I'm just a fan of his, more specifically through the podcast than anything else. But he's woven into that fabric of New York, and you're right. Like I said, like you said, it gives us hope that at some point some of these other teams might be able to finally pull it together. And the Mets, I was 7 when they won. I don't really have a remembrance of it. I remember I had the poster, Happiness is Game 6, and we've been trying to get back there ever since. I went to one of the playoff games against Chicago on our most recent run, and then we ended up playing the Royals in the World Series, and I had tickets to a World Series game, and it was I want to say it was the one after they kept, it was either the one or the one after where they kept Matt Harvey in too long. And I just couldn't, I remember just not wanting to bring myself to go to the game to watch the Mets lose. And I think actually it might have actually been that game. And I just remember thinking how devastated I would have been. I mean, granted, I took quite a bit of a hit because I think I ended up waiting until the last minute, and I probably ate the tickets. The ticket probably cost me like $1,000, but I couldn't bring myself to go see it and to watch them lose again after a lifetime, if you will, of suffering. Even though baseball, again, is not my top thing. If I took you into this room is filled with wrestling, there's Conor McGregor's over here with his 2 titles, and there's some sports in here, but the guest room and the other room upstairs here is the one that has my Giants Sports Illustrated commemorative editions from when they won the Super Bowls. There's a Met towel that's hanging up above the window, but it's primarily an homage to the Giants and to my run with the Nets. There's an autographed Jason Kidd jersey in there. There's an autographed Vince Carter jersey. There's a At one point, my prized possession was an autographed picture of Kenyon Martin throwing down a dunk against the Celtics. I made the mistake of putting that in an alcove in my first apartment when I moved out of my parents' house, and that Sharpie autograph just kind of faded because of the sunlight was hitting it over time. I ended up gifting that to a friend of mine who lived with me in said apartment as a decoration for, or actually, I think my cousin might have taken that one because he had, even though he was technically a Knicks fan, he had a good time with us through those finals runs. And you can't take the memories away. I mean, I have a picture of me holding the Eastern Conference trophy somewhere instead of an actual NBA championship ring, which wouldn't have been the one that the same as the players got, but still probably would have never taken it off my hand if I had that. And it's fun because we have stories and we have things that we think about, whether it's with our sports teams, or I know you're going to be heading back up north soon to go see Rush live in concert, which is really exciting, which is why I use that Spirit of Radio song to give the little teaser for, I told you, that's the song that I played when I drove myself home from school on my very last day of school. So despite at times me agreeing with Tony's ever famous quote, "Remember when is the lowest form of conversation," when it comes to our sports teams and when it comes to the things that we love and care about that remind us from home, remember when is a fun conversation to have for sure. We're coming up on an hour, so I don't want to keep you too much longer, and I'm getting pretty damn hungry myself. And we're going to look at a couple more sandwiches before I let you go. But I also want to hear, because you and I, a lot of times we are congruous in terms of the things that we watch and enjoy that are outside of our sports teams and whatnot. How excited are you for I Play Rocky, which we just started hearing about within the last week or two? This is going to be a biopic, which is basically going to be the story of Sylvester Stallone pitching the Rocky idea and wanting to play Rocky himself in his own movie. That's what this story is about, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's about. And there's a reason why my place is called Rocky's. The whole story of Rocky himself and how it got made, it's the whole, 1,000,000 to 1 shot that worked. And when I was a kid, I was old enough to see Rocky in a movie theater when it first came out. And I just remember not only the movie, but the crowd inside a packed movie theater just going out of their minds cheering.
Right.
It was an experience that'll never, it'll never happen again, and I'll never forget it. And then I see this trailer, for the story behind the story. And the actor, funny enough, is the guy who played Al Pacino in the making of The Godfather: The Offer, which was on HBO Max a couple of years back, and played an incredible Al Pacino. And I hear this voice, and I'm like, that's Stallone. What's going on here? And when I tell you, as that trailer plays, the goosebumps just get raised, because that whole story is amazing. I mean, he's a guy who stood his ground. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. He stood his ground, said, this is the way we're going to do it, and held out. And I mean, the rest is history. And the whole Rocky story, little known fact, on my back is a tattoo of Rocky Balboa on the top of the steps looking over Philadelphia.
Really?
Yeah. It's everything about it just inspires me, and it inspired me since I was a kid, and people used to call me that. And that's how I ended up. I mean, even though it's based in Philadelphia, Rocky is the story that in a lot of ways parallels what, how the Deli was built and how my life has gone. It's, everything was a shot that, that you got to take, and we took it, and it's gone well. And I am so psyched for this. I haven't been to a movie theater in I can't even remember the last movie I saw in a theater. I'm just not a theater guy. This one I will be right there in the theater for. I mean, I am just so excited for this.
I might have to join you for it if you want company.
Hell yeah.
I
Yeah.
grew up working in a movie theater. It's another one of the things that my wife and I have in common. We went to the same nursery school, even though we lived in different towns. And then she moved up to Warwick, New York with her family. And I moved to White. We were both living in Oakland, New Jersey. I moved to Wyckoff. She moved up to Warwick, and she worked in a movie theater in high school, just like I did. I have a fondness for. I used to collect the large style posters. When I got down here in 2021, I like to say, without equivocation, that Tom Cruise saved cinema. My birthday weekend, and I might have gotten COVID from this little excursion, but my birthday weekend in 2021, I think it was 2021. I think it was that same summer. We went to see, we went to see Top Gun, the sequel,
Maverick,
at
yeah.
a movie theater in Georgia that I'll probably never go back to. There was a kitchen knife that was about this big outside the door of the theater, and there's not a kitchen in a movie theater. And this thing was like, literally looked like a weapon. I just, that's what I remember about going to this theater. It was the first time that we had been out there. We just chose a theater that was playing it, and I felt fine when I was there. But when I walked out and found this large, enormous knife basically on the sidewalk in front of the theater, I was afraid to go back inside. I just called and I said, "You have a huge knife out on the front doorstep of your theater." But I digress. We went to see Maverick, Top Gun 2 that weekend, and in my opinion, Tom Cruise saved cinema. And that summer, we saw the Jurassic World, whatever it was that came out. We saw Thor: Love and Thunder, and then the following year, Guardians of the Galaxy, Fast 10, Mission Impossible, Bad Boys Ride or Die, which is, I'm a big fan of that Bad Boys series. I'm looking at Wolverine and Deadpool and the Den of Thieves sequel, and then the second half of the Mission Impossible finale with the whatever they called it, the Final Reckoning. I'm a big movie guy, and what's been happening lately, and I talked about this, I think, on a recent podcast, there are some things that have been happening in my world, the world of wrestling and sports entertainment, that have been very eerily. I draw my inspiration from certain people. I draw my inspiration from, someone like Triple H, who's basically running the show now after being a student of the game for so many years, and a great pro wrestler with a great career in and of himself. And as I celebrate his birthday today, he's one of my inspirations. Cody Rhodes is another one of my inspirations. Someone who, his employer didn't feel as strongly about him as he felt. As they felt, or as he felt he should be, and he should be the number one quarterback and the guy that gets to run with the ball, and therefore he had to leave and come back after he proved that that he could basically be a star that could carry a company. And he's basically a Hulk Hogan caliber babyface for WWE at this point. We'll see if it stays that way, because he's heading into a match this weekend with another one of my favorites, CM Punk, who basically just was worn down by the business and had to leave due to health reasons, and who was in charge and things like that. And then he says to Cody in the ring last week, because I'll never get to see my CM Punk Triple H match. We were headed to that when CM Punk took his ball and went home back in 2000, and I think it was 14 or so. He was supposed to be wrestling Triple H, and I was over the moon excited about it, because these were my two guys. Well, now I'm getting the next best thing, which is CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. And the reason why I say that is because CM Punk said to Cody last week on SmackDown, he said, "You showed me the path back, and you showed me that there was a way to come back to this." And I think about where I was in my life back in 2014, when this guy who was a favorite of mine, I think it was 2015, it might have been, when he actually walked away. It was 15 or so. It was a little over. It was either on or about 10 years ago when he left, and the UFC run didn't work out, and he's done other things. He's done comic books. He's been in a couple of movies and things like that. But now to see him back, and to see him holding the WWE Championship and going into a big match this weekend at SummerSlam with another guy who's been so significantly influential to me, I find a lot of similarities with the path that I've taken in my career and in my life. And as you know, as a friend of mine, changes that have happened for me professionally, more than anything else, have really been life altering for me over these last 6 months. And I'm truly blessed to be able to be in a situation now where I'm in and out of restaurants every day. I'll still do mortgages. I'm still here for my customers and for the realtors that trusted me to help. I just closed a neighbor of mine right around the corner earlier this month on a home purchase. And I'll be able to help and serve my customers that I've served for, the 20 years that I've been doing mortgages, because I'm coming up on 20 years since I got into that business back in 2006. But this food journey and this podcast journey has taken me in a direction that I never would have imagined. And it really is, quite frankly, I'm going to flatter you when I say this, but to have you on and to be able to have this conversation with someone that I have, am grateful to call a friend is really a crowning achievement of what I feel like I've been able to accomplish in the last couple of years of doing this show, because I can't do this brand and this media entity without the food. And you have given me, I told you as we started off, I'll bring it full circle. I pulled together with only a couple of minutes worth of effort, 112 photos from your deli. When I post your sandwiches, and we're going to kind of just go through quickly kind of as we wrap up this conversation and I get you out of here. 112 photos, a lot of which was, starting with pictures of, this was probably my first photo of the outside of the store. And then there's my wife there. We won't keep her on very long so that I don't get yelled at. And these pictures of these walls that have gotten, like you said, they look bare compared to the way it looks now. And I want people to go and check this stuff out, when they have, at the soonest possible chance that they have, because I've been to games at Shea Stadium and I've been to Giant games at the old Giant Stadium, to be able to, and again, there's Piamai again, the Turnpike and Pizza Land and Satriali's, to be able to go through, and more so important, just as equally, if not more important, to be able to enjoy a sandwich like the T that reminds me of Angelina's and reminds me of, I could rattle off 12 delis in the Bergen and Passaic County area that I try to hit some of them when I do return to New Jersey. And I promise my rant is almost over, but really to be able to sit here with you and have this conversation, and I hope we get to do it again sometime soon. Yeah. It really is an honor and a pleasure for me. And I'm so proud of you and the team over there for what you've accomplished, because you have really brought, for people like me that are as passionate about food as people like you are, I'm very grateful and really, really appreciative that you were able to bring this to what I call my hometown, my home away from home, hometown deli, if you will.
Thanks so much, Nick. And, wow, that really means a lot. And look, I'm grateful for you for what you've done to help promote us and help get the word out, and what you've done in the deli to help me. This is a pretty cool relationship, and I appreciate everything that you do, Nick. Thank you.
My pleasure. It's an honor and a pleasure. More than anything else, the fact that I get to consider you a friend. And you said that to me one day many months ago, because we were having kind of like a heart-to-heart conversation, and you basically said, like, we're friends, and you've been an incredible asset to me, not just professionally, but there's something else that I've made and I've dropped hints that I'm working on, and I'm not going to get into any more conversation about that now. But I would not have been able to get as close as I've gone at this point in time, as we stand here towards the end of July, without the advice and the support from you, which I cannot thank you for enough. Going back to, our first get together for lunch, and we need to definitely get that on the calendar soon, so that
you're going to get me emotional here, Nick. Come on.
I know, but I got to get back out to Pooler so that we can enjoy another lunch soon on your day off.
Absolutely.
Before I let you go, I always like to wrap things up with, and I'm going to make this an all-encompassing thing, and I'm going to show a couple more photos here on the way out. I always like to talk about, like, what's next. So we talked about specifically what's next this week is this brisket cheesesteak sandwich that you're going to have. I wanted to mention, again, we can't let people leave without talking about one of my favorite things, which is every Friday, which is Parm Friday, chicken, eggplant, and meatball almost every Friday. If you don't do it, you do announce it and you give people a heads up. We got a huge catering order or something like that. We're not going to be able to do the Parm Friday, but there you see the meatball Parm. Get a close up on that.
Wow.
You see the eggplant parm, get a close up on that. Occasionally, you might even slip a veal parm in there. Yeah. Other than Parm Fridays and these, and we even had, I pulled this up while you were talking about the specials. We've even had dueling specials before. We've had the Sweet Lou going head to head with the chicken chopped cheese. Yeah. This was the double that you had one week. What is coming down the pike for Rocky's Deli? What are you looking forward to, and what should we keep an eye out other than these amazing specials that you keep in front of us, on a weekly basis over at the store?
I guess in the immediate future, I'm really looking to expand the prepared dinners, the lasagnas, the ziti's, and the chicken parm, just the prepared dinners. Like I said, we're pretty maxed in that deli. So
what you guys do in that space, which if you guys have ever been in Rocky's, the dining area and the retail area that you see when you're waiting for your sandwich and when you're grabbing a table to eat your sandwich is literally larger. If you include like the bathrooms, it's larger because if you consider, this part that you see, which is where the sandwiches are being made, that's takes up a small portion of that room. But the actual kitchen where this stuff is coming from, guys, is even smaller than the area that you guys see as customers. Right?
So
tight.
We are, we're looking to see what we can do to expand at this point.
Right.
And I don't know what it's going to look like, whether it's possible food trucks or something to that, but we're looking to do something semi-quickly, be into the beginning of next year. Don't know what it's going to look like, but we got to do something. It's tight, and I want to be able to serve everybody a little bit better, a little bit quicker. Just whatever we can do to whatever we can do to just expand a little bit. So something's going to happen in the next. Nice. Something's going to happen in the next. Well, I actually look like I'm not too heavy there. I like that picture. All right,
it's a very good picture of both of us. Yeah. Actually, it's a perfect angle for
Excellent.
I need to get myself a shirt too. By the way, now that makes me think at some point I got to get my hands on a Rocky shirt so that I could wear that. I'm a big merch guy.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, that's that's what I'm looking. I mean, I definitely.
It's a great problem to have, but that's the focus right now, is to get into a bigger space.
Yeah, it is. And I want to brick and mortar. I want to stay in the area, but food truck is a definite possibility. And I actually, Olivia, who is my right hand, even though she's not in the store every day, we talk every day. We talk strategy every day, and she's really my right hand. And she's doing some legwork now to see what we can do in the future.
Yes, and I noticed something that she posted a couple of weeks ago where she was inquiring about some commercial stuff and things like that. As it stands right now, you're looking at it. This is the Sandfly, the original and still current location of Rocky's New York Deli and Italian Catering. Again, this is in the Sandfly neighborhood of Savannah. This is one of my t-shirts that I love, is the Forget About It, y'all. 73, perfect timing, 7360 Skidaway Road in Savannah, Georgia. There's the phone number, 912-354-2914. Again, you can order your sandwiches, you can order your breakfast, your lunch, and contact them for your catering needs as well. That's another thing that I wanted to mention. You see all these amazing sandwiches coming out of here. I mean, look at the cheese pull. This is the eggplant parm that my brother likes with the cheese pull. What you guys don't see is, the trays and trays of lasagna and, pasta and meatballs and all the stuff that comes cranking out of that kitchen, which again, the fact that you've been able to accomplish what you've been able to accomplish out of a space, and even, guys, I mean, even while you're waiting for your sandwiches and you see these amazing, sausages that they have here, you see, I wanted to give everybody a peek at from the last time that I went there, of that incredible, massive piece of cheese that you had, this picante provolone. This thing was a beast. That got some attention from the Facebook post as well. I mean, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I even found a couple treats that I didn't even know that you had, that one of the girls behind the counter didn't even know. These Samantana gelatis with the dark chocolate gelato. I might not have tried this one. Yeah. I went for the other one first, the Carmelo Salato. But then one of the gang said, try out this other one. I think it might have been Jelani. Yeah. I was eating breakfast for my dessert with my breakfast at 9:00 in the morning and indulging in these. That's another funny picture that I took. I think Jersey either wants to go out or he wants lunch, so I'm going to let you go. But this was another fun photo that I took with Jelani while I was waiting for my sandwiches that I was taken for the road. And another quick one that I took the other day that I also loved was the United We Stand, the autograph of our guy Piazza, which that was another one of the. We do have a couple of highlights along the way from our years as long-suffering Met fans. But again, they're back from vacation full-time Tuesday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., closed Sundays and Mondays. Billy Vissicchio, my brother from Rocky's, New York Deli, and Italian Catering in the Sandfly neighborhood of Savannah, Georgia. Well, we did it, man. An hour and 20. Absolutely. And we're going to head on to our respective lunches. I don't know about you, but I'm starving after this conversation.
Yeah, well, this dog is climbing a wall, so.
Right on. All right, so you get to him. I'm going to get back to Juno and Ronan. Figure out what the heck I'm doing for lunch here. And I'm going to see you this week because I got to have that brisket cheesesteak.
It'll be good. Nick, thanks so much, man. Seriously, thanks for having me on. This has been great. I had a lot of fun. My absolute pleasure. I had a blast. I knew that we were going to have fun. Yep. I never need notes for these things, but I was writing things down as we went so that I wouldn't forget about stuff. We're going to be back, guys, with more from you'll hear from me before the end of the week. I know I have to go back. My friend Simone took her sons for the first time, not her first time, but their first time about a week and a half ago. And I was telling Billy that they've been begging to get back there. One of them wants a cheesesteak. The other one wants whatever it was sandwich that he had. He wants another one of those. Guys, go check out Rocky's Deli. It is well worth the trip. And again, stay tuned for more content from the Indulgent Islander with Billy Vissicchio, Olivia Waters, Jelani, Matt, and the rest of the team at Rocky's New York Deli. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you very much. Love you, brother.
Have a great rest of your day off. I'll talk to you soon. All right. Thanks. All right, guys, there you have it. Billy Vissicchio from Rocky's New York Deli. I know that was a longer one as we go a little over an hour and 20 here on the Indulgent Hour and change. That was a lot of fun. I knew it was going to be hard for me to kind of limit it because there was so much that I wanted to talk to Billy about. And we'll have him back on again at some point in the future. And we'll definitely be doing some more content on site. As you heard from Billy himself, we heard about a food truck, which I didn't even know about. So we appreciate them mentioning that possibility. If anything, they're going to need to get into a larger space at some point. They want to keep their storefront, but again, to keep up with the demand and the amount of orders and things like that you have, it's a tough one. So that's all we got for today. I'm going to be back probably with another interview or two in the next week or two, as we said, wind down things on Indulgent Hour second course. Right now it's almost 1:30 and I am absolutely starving after that conversation. So I am going to send a quick text to a friend and I might actually go take a ride and get myself some lunch on this beautiful Monday. Big Monday Night Raw coming tonight from Los Angeles, whatever they call that arena over in LA. And then, of course, for those of you wrestling fans that want to catch me and El Hijo del Jefe, Tommy Emmerich, on Against the Ropes Radio will be live at noon. That's not on this feed, The Indulgent Islander. You can find that off my personal page, Nick D. Simone, or of course my Instagram. Usually post little teasers and promos for that at Low Country Life without the W, LO for loan officer, loan originator, if you will. Don't you know I'm loco, as I used to say. That's all I got, guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I know I'm going to have a great week because it's SummerSlam week, and I got a lot of fun visits with a lot of my people tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday before we wrap things on Friday and head into the big SummerSlam weekend. Indulgent Islander out. I never know which hand. I've been doing this for such a long time, and I never know which hand's going to pop up on the screen when I do that. Have a great week, everybody. Peace.